Good morning, everybody. Hopefully you're doing okay. Welcome to this Thursday show. This one's going to be a little bit different, but we'll get into that in a minute. But first, let me get everything going here. Welcome to Break the Cycle with DSD. I am your host, Duane. I'm not a therapist. I'm an individual much like you who's been through a difficult experience and had to develop some tips and techniques for myself to get through this that I share with you to help you do the same. Get your life back, break the cycle of emotional abuse, and if you have children, to try to strengthen and rebuild your relationship with them. Remember that only a licensed professional can diagnose an individual with a personality disorder. Be very careful throwing around terms because they can get you in trouble. Our credibility is the main defense we have against this, and this a surefire way to start hurting yourself is whenever you start going around diagnosing people with issues. So be careful of that. Leave that to the professionals. Obviously, learn about what's going on, learn about how you deal with it, what the patterns of behavior are, but do not go down that route and get yourself in trouble. If you like what's going on here and you want to support the channel, you can do that by becoming a channel member and or subscribing and ringing the bell notification. And when you become a member, you get special badges, custom emojis, your name listed at the end of the credits, and access to member-only events. There's one coming up next weekend, not this one, but the following weekend. So if you're interested in that, you can do that by going to youtube.com/dadsurvivingdivorce and looking for the join button. If you want to get the text notification of when the show goes live, you can text DSDLIVE to 844-598-0012, 844-598-0012. The phone lines might be open today. This is going to be a little weird one because I'm going to bring Debbie on and we're going to talk a little bit about relationships and how tough this is for the new person whenever they don't realize what you're really dealing with. But we'll get into more of that later. Man, I went through that fast. And, excuse me, on that, yeah, hopefully you guys are having a good Thursday morning. I got my coffee here. Hopefully you have yours. And this came up. Let me see if I can figure out where in the world I put this. This came up towards the end of the show yesterday. I'm just going to move it. Actually, I might be able to. I wonder if this will work. I'm going to try something here. This may not work. I don't know. I'm going to see if I can just highlight this comment. I'll just do this. Oh, that is really small. that doesn't help. Let me see if I can make it bigger. Can I make it bigger? Stand by one. Let me try this. All right. Now I can. I don't know if that works. Maybe that helps. Alex had asked. I said, my new partner is very understanding, but is always looking for better ways to understand me and what I have been going through. And I figured, what better way to talk about that than to bring Debbie, who you guys, if you don't know, she's my girlfriend, and she also moderates most of the time, well, probably like 99% of the time on the channel. So she obviously cares about me because she gets up way early to do this. And I am going to attempt, hopefully this doesn't blow up in our face, but I am going to try to unmute her. All right, are you there?
Good morning.
Hey, it worked. Technology did not fail us today. Anyway, so as you probably heard, we were talking about, or I was mentioning that comment that came up, and it's one of those things that's incredibly difficult for a new person to deal with. So I guess the way I'm thinking about doing, we'll do this format. We'll talk a little bit, and if you guys could ask, if you want to ask some questions in the comments, do the normal tag thing and just put a Q in front of it so that we can see it and try to cover that. Maybe we might pull people in to ask a question on the air, but we'll kind of roll with it and see how it goes. So let's see. I guess I'll start this story out with when Debbie and I first started dating. I didn't know what I knew I had a toxic, high conflict ex, but I didn't realize exactly what she was at the time. And at the time, the ex was basically leaving me alone, and I thought I was pretty much healed. So Debbie and I met, we started dating, And I don't know, I don't even remember. When we first started dating, did I tell you what a crazy psycho ex I had, or did I not? Did that even come up? I don't even remember now.
No, you didn't start everything out with that because that's not the greatest icebreaker in a new relationship.
It's like, hey, hi, new person. Just so you know, I have a crazy ex who's making my life a living hell and will probably do the same to you. Want to go out? Oh my God. Oh, wouldn't that have been a fun
Exactly.
first time? That's funny.
Right.
So I'm trying
No,
to,
I think you were very matter of fact at the beginning.
yeah, I think I might have mentioned that it was difficult. Um, but I mean, we were more focused on what we were doing at the time. And things really, I mean, everything was basically stable until you met the kids. That was really the catalyst that kind of changed everything. Wouldn't you agree to that?
Oh, yes.
So, on that, I mean, so what happened in that situation is I wanted to, I mean, well, we waited. So we dated for, it was only 3 months. I would probably recommend anyone else out there, you know, date for 6 before you, I mean, unless you really, really feel confident with it. But, give yourself time. And, you're not in a hurry on anything. But what had happened is we finally got to the point where, like, okay, this is a serious relationship. We see long term potential in it. So that was whenever it was like, okay, so how do we facilitate her meeting the kids? So we did that, and that went fine, right? I mean, when you first met, initially you only met the first two or the oldest two, and that went great. If I remember correctly, we had a nice time. We went out, we hung out. There was no issues. Nobody was apprehensive around you, right? If I remember correctly.
That's right. And also, now that we're older and wiser, we realize that 3 months is not very long at all. I think we were very overconfident.
I would definitely agree with that. So again, guys, give yourself time before before you insert your children into the mix. And the thing that happened next is basically all hell broke loose. It was a really, that's whenever the ex or my ex, you know, tried to turn me in for being a deadbeat, saying I wasn't paying child support, even though I was just trying to find anything and everything to try to make basically, well, I guess I was going to say my life, but I guess our lives is just a living hell. But even then, I don't think you really understood what we were dealing with at the time, right?
No, absolutely not. I agree.
So,
Did not know.
I mean, and we were talking yesterday, and you had mentioned how even though I kind of was explaining what a unique little pumpkin I had, that you didn't really understand how bad it actually was. Do you want to kind of dive into that a little bit more? Because this is something that I think most people who are going through this, who are coming into a new relationship with somebody with a toxic ex, that this is what's going to happen.
Well, I thought it was just the normal thing that you're going to hear from someone who's had a relationship ended. You're going to hear, oh well, obviously they're not together anymore, which means something went wrong. Okay, that's normal. Something went wrong. It's okay. And your explanations and your stories, um, I was empathetic, of course, and I was listening, and I thought, okay. But inside me, I was thinking, yeah, but it couldn't be that bad. You know what I mean? That was my inner voice, my incorrect inner voice saying that.
That was yeah, that was pretty funny. Now, All's Well asks a question. Whoops, where did it go? All's Well says, Debbie, how did you feel when Duane complained about his ex? So how did you feel about that when it would come up? Now keep in mind, this is before it turned into a complete shit show. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that this early in the show, but this whole transition to where for a period of time, our entire conversation had to be about what a wonderful human being the ex was.
Right. So, as we mentioned in the very beginning, there wasn't a lot of talk like that. There was a lot of positive talk and very, um, positive thinking and whatnot. But then when everything started going down after, your ex found out that we were dating, and then our conversations became way centered on, her behaviors, what she's doing, her emails, her this, her that, her everything was things that she's doing or saying. And so how did that affect us is that there was tension in the air, negativity, the conversations were negative, and I kept telling myself, it'll get better. It's just this temporary thing. It'll get better. I was still unaware of what a marathon it was going to be.
Yeah, it was, marathon's probably maybe the nice way to put it. I think so here's the big thing, I guess, or maybe a takeaway on this is for somebody who's coming into a relationship. I mean, this going back to, I closed it, but going back to Alex's question, the new relationship wants to understand. And I mean, and Debbie definitely wanted to understand my situation, but I think you almost really have to believe when someone's telling you how bad it is, you have to give that some, I mean, I guess, trust but verify, but understand that maybe there's something more going on than just, it's just a normal bad relationship and now they hate each other. So, of course they're going to say bad things about each other. Right. I mean, it's like don't just assume, well, and this is one part we didn't get into. Don't just assume that you're going to be a pathway to repairing everything. Right. I mean, because I think at one point we were talking about this yesterday. You were thinking that, okay, well, you're a nice person. I'm more than likely exaggerating how bad it really is. So you could potentially be the peacemaker to make things, to smooth things over. Right. I mean, and we've talked about that in the past, but that's kind of the way you felt, right?
Oh, absolutely. I thought that I was going to bring my little ray of sunshine and everything was just going to go great, and she would see that I'm a nice, regular human and we can all get along. And it's just, it wasn't butterflies and rainbows, obviously.
Yeah. And then the interesting part is as soon as the ex realized that directly going at me wasn't working anymore, as soon as I stopped reacting to the provocations, it shifted to basically trying to undermine you, or trying to undermine Debbie. And how did that feel when that first started? How was that?
Pretty shocking, I'll be honest, because as I had said, my only intention was that, okay, I'm going to somehow be able to show this person that I'm cool. She can be cool with me. I don't instigate arguments. I prefer non-conflict situations. So it's going to be fine. I thought I would be more of someone that can help you, but could be the neutral person, right?
Yeah.
And then when the behaviors started and I started getting pulled in, it took me off guard. And to be honest, I didn't immediately know, what my move would be.
Yeah, it was, well, and it started out very, I guess, slowly and insidiously. I mean, just for you guys to understand, I mean, and most people who are in the same position, this will sound, like, oh yeah, I'm going through that now, probably. But this is kind of, in some ways, what you have to look forward to. We would go do something. We'd have a great time, all of us together with the kids. Everybody be happy. They would go back to their moms. And then when they would come back, it would be, oh, I don't really like that. That wasn't really that much fun. Or worse, as it progressed, then it proceeded to get worse, that when we would plan something, it would be like, hey, we're going to do this. And everyone would be excited. And then the next, then after the transition, it would be like, well, I don't really like that. I mean, I remember at one point it was going to go to the beach and it's like, well, I'm allergic to the sun. I don't like the sand. I mean, it was just like, what the hell? I mean, it was just very, very insidious, just sabotaging anything that we were trying to do. And that was before it really started getting focused. Well, that was where it was starting to get focused on Debbie, but it was just more at the beginning. It was just to try to destroy the events. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for reminding me about that, because some of those things haven't happened in a while. So it's kind of, after time, it kind of fades in the background.
Right.
But it's true. It's like I started wondering, how is it that when we go somewhere, it's terrible, but if they go somewhere, you know, less eventful with their mother, it's all great. How
Right.
is it that when we're involved and we're doing these really fun things and they're smiling and laughing and saying this is great? Yeah, it's like they go through their programming, wherever their brainwashed programming, and then they come back over to your home and they're like, nah, no, not really my thing. But you loved it the other day. Well, yeah, I gave it some thought. I don't, really, you gave it some
Yeah. Yeah. It was bizarre, guys.
weird.
And it was tough. Now, Makanika has a question for you. I'm not sure if you can see it. Well, you won't be able to see it on the screen until it catches up. But question is, do you have any children? So, I mean, do you want to answer that real
Right.
quick?
So, yes, interestingly enough, uh, not only are we both the same age, but we both have 3 children. So yes, you could say the Brady Bunch, although we're not all in one house, but yes.
Well, and just to clarify too,
Mm.
all of her kids are over 18 now. I'm the only one with an under 18, and technically, I mean, yours are all like, I mean, basically adults. So I'm really the only one who has kids that are still kind of around. Which, I mean, I think everyone once I get to them all being 18, then it'll be a lot less. The next question on that was, do you have an ex who is insane? And I guess technically you
Uh,
don't have to
mhm.
answer that.
No, I can answer it in a different way. What I could say is that um, I've learned quite a bit from being in this relationship. There are things that I had kind of buried that I hadn't really thought about as being parallel experiences, not exactly the same experiences. Um, and so it awoke me to all the other people in my life that exhibited narcissistic traits. It doesn't, and like we always say, this isn't a diagnosis. I'm talking about behavior traits.
Right.
And so I've learned a great deal from this, wouldn't you say, Duane? I mean, I've learned quite a bit along the way.
Yeah, and I think that that's another key point I think to just dwell on for a second, and that is, if the person that you have in a new relationship has had any interaction, I guess, with toxic people in their life, your situation is going to be incredibly triggering for them. So there's a high probability that on top of everything else, they're going to have to deal with some of their, maybe their childhood trauma, and stuff like that. I would also just to add, her I mean, I guess to put it to context differently. I mean, a little while ago, we went to your son's birthday party, and your ex and your ex-in-laws were there, and I mean, we weren't yucking it up at their table, but I mean, it was a very cordial experience, and it was fine. And I mean, it's definitely a different situation compared to what I have with mine, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a different thing. But what I want to say about them, because they're wondering, is my past the same? Well, we have parallels, like with with his parents and my parents. Okay, so we won't go deep into that right now, but there are parallels there. However, he dealt with those things in childhood differently than me in some
Yeah.
ways, but in other ways we did the same thing. So he was in one long-term relationship where he was being, emotionally traumatized for a long time. With me, I filled the void by getting into relationships and then oh my gosh, this is terrible, and then getting into another relationship and going, oh my god, no, what did I do? Why did I do that? And then I get another, do you see what I mean? Like, I had a different pattern going on, but we both were dealing with that trauma in completely different ways.
Yeah, and I'll just with you saying that, I mean, this is why it's critically important. Once you get to the point that you realize, something's wrong, pause your life and start working on healing those wounds, because the universe or God or however you want to say it is going to make sure you learn those lessons. And typically the way that comes up is you have a bad experience. If you don't learn it there, then you have another experience, which is going to be a little bit worse. And if you don't learn it there, the next one typically it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse until you finally go, oh, hey, there's a pattern here and I need to work on myself to fix it. So definitely focus in on that. Excuse me. The last part of the question was, have you met Duane's narc? And I don't know. I'll go go ahead and answer that one.
Yes. And it was very awkward.
It's been
and
awkward.
Duane tried to warn me, and I was like, no, it'll be fine.
Well, what was the first time? I think the first time, and they didn't necessarily meet. I think we went over to drop something off at her house or pick one of the kids up or something. And the ex, I can't remember. She came. She does this thing where she comes and she like hugs all the kids. Like wants to like get into the truck. So she came around. She did the same thing. She saw that Debbie was in the truck. Didn't acknowledge. Didn't say anything. I mean, you would have expected it'd be like, oh hi. I mean, there'd be an opportunity. Whatever. And then literally skipped across the street, going to the neighbor. Across the street to the neighbor's house. And I remember you looked at me and she's like, under your breath, just like, did she just skip across the street? Do you remember that one?
Wow, oh my goodness, that was strange, because I was poised and ready to politely introduce myself, but instead, yeah, she did all the hugging thing, and then she skipped like a 6-year-old across the street, and my jaw dropped open. I looked at you and I was, is that, like, did that happen? I was confused.
And I think I just said, yep. Yep. That would be the ex. I'm sorry. I forgot about that. It wasn't funny at the time. At the time, it was bizarre.
That was weird. But I, if I remember correctly, the time that I met her by myself, well, there might have been two
that
times
one
at
was,
the most.
that one was a tough one, because I didn't know you were going to. Okay, let me just set this up. What it is that, okay, back in the day, I mean, when all the kids were on the dole and everything, I mean, money was super tight. And the kids had crappy suitcases, and that's what it was. We were getting ready to go on a trip, and we were trying to get the suitcases. And I think I might have emailed a question, and it went something like this: Dear X, hey, I need the suitcases. And then the answer was, why do you need the suitcases? I'm like, I just need them. Could you send them over? Well, where are you going? It was that type of thing. So you had gone over to try to get them, and you actually met just you and the ex basically in front of her house. And I think that was the day that you finally realized exactly what we were dealing with, right? I mean, because I think up to that point, you still were like, okay, well, maybe maybe it's not as bad as it seems, right? Would that be accurate?
Right. I thought it was just a normal thing. I thought that picking up the suitcases was as normal as, hey, his daughter left her toothbrush. We're just going to get it, but we need to use that toothbrush, and then we'll bring it back. I mean, like, it's just a normal object.
Yeah.
I did not see it as some, like, golden heirloom or something,
Oh yeah. Oh, and when you saw what they were, you were like, oh my God, these are crappy, $20, $30 Walmart suitcases. I mean, they weren't like some really nice thing. And if I remember correctly, I was like, I'm not dealing with the suit. I mean, I think I probably said, I'll put the kids' stuff in a effing trash bag and use that as a suitcase before I have to try to deal with the ex to get the suitcases. I think there was a conversation like that at one point. Was there? I can't remember.
This whole thing was me learning my lesson, Duane. I think this is one of those things where I had to learn my lesson, and that's, and I learned my lesson. So I went over there thinking it was a normal exchange, and instead it went poorly. And then she found ways to intimidate me and make me feel badly about myself, and that was a very interesting
Well,
thing.
and I think, and I okay,
Remember
I'll
that?
try to skirt around this, but professionally, you are in the process of even becoming more trained on how to kind of not deal in these situations, but I mean, you were recognizing patterns as it was happening. It's like, holy crap. I mean, so you weren't like intimidated. You're like, oh my God, is she really doing this right now? I mean, that was kind of more of your reaction, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, but the behaviors were intimidating, and you know how you've talked on your channel that they will look for things that you might be sensitive to or ways to push your buttons, and then they will
Oh yeah.
capitalize on those insecurities. Um, and so, in what could have been a very normal conversation between two people, picking up an item, and then I said, I'll gladly bring them back. He just needs them because he needs to go, he wants to take them somewhere. But anyway, she asserted herself as being the sole owner of the suitcases because she bought them while you guys were married. So anything that you guys got belongs to her. Anything, it was the weirdest thing. Like, I couldn't understand why you couldn't share an item. But she was doing things by, like saying, "Is there something wrong with your eye? It looks like there's
Right.
something wrong with your eye." And there was nothing wrong with my eye. And then she also, to try to pretend to be friendly,
Right.
she said, "This is a person who's like a size 4. She's basically a twig, and I have never been a twig, nor shall I ever be a twig. And so you can plainly see that about me." And she had the audacity to say, "Oh, I was just thinking, I have this dress that I just can't wear it anymore, and it's so beautiful. And I was just what?" And I'm looking at her like, "Are you out of your mind?" So she's smiling and she's, "Oh, I have this dress. I would love to give it to you."
Yeah.
And then she's waiting for me to say I'm too big to wear that dress, right?
And just to clear,
It
I
was
mean,
awful.
just so if you guys aren't catching the nuances on this, is the ex was pretending to be nice during all this. It wasn't like you know being yelling or anything like that. It was all very. I mean, and this is the type of crap that the ex would do with me. It's like the subtle put downs, right? I mean, it's like you're doing it with a smile, like the whole comment with the eye. It's like, oh, is there something wrong? Like, I'm just worried about you. So even if you said something like, what are you talking about? It's easy for a narcissistic person to turn and go, well, I'm just being concerned, right? I mean, it's a really, I mean, unless you've experienced it, it's a bizarre experience because most people don't do crazy, weird stuff like that. And I think when you came back after that experience, I think the first thing you said is like, oh my God, I get it now. I think that's what you said. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I learned my lesson. I went over there with a good attitude, a positive attitude, and a feeling of, look, it's going to be fine. I'm going to introduce myself. She's going to see I'm a nice person. She's not going to think it's a big deal about those suitcases. It's going to be so easy. It's going to be no problem. And then I'm going to be able to tell Duane, look, it's not that bad. It's great. When I got back, I I mean, I felt, she had basically put me down, about my size, and she thought that my face or my eyes looked weird. Like, what's wrong? Is something wrong with your eyes? Or something wrong with your eye? And there was that, and just whatever she could do to. But remember, she had a smile on
Oh
her
yeah.
face. Remember, this is the person who skipped across the street. Okay, so she's smiling, and I'm like, wait a minute, is there something wrong with me? Is there something? Wait a minute, no, there's something wrong with her. Like, this whole thing. And so when I
Yeah.
got back, I had an appreciation, and I was like, and I remember saying something like, Duane, that was your life for 20 years. What?
I know I'm a genius. Or I guess it just shows that I have a tremendous amount of perseverance. I'm laughing now, guys. Just to be clear, it wasn't funny at the time. It was that I was actually pretty frustrated. I was almost angry. I'm like, you did what? In retrospect, it was good because that was the pivot point where Debbie really started to understand what I was dealing with. Prior to that, I was trying to keep everything separate. Okay, I mean, just so we don't dwell on this story, I mean, since then we have gone to, we've been at the school at school functions together. There have been a few other times where all of us, the kids, Debbie and the ex, have all been in the same general area. We try to avoid that as much as possible, but sometimes there's no way around it. But
Right.
before I
But
move
I
on, anything
also,
else? Okay, yeah, go ahead.
go ahead. Oh, well, the other thing, how I knew that this was a serious thing, we didn't bring this up yet, is that, Duane, we brought this up in the past, I think. I could tell that you had been emotionally traumatized by your reactions with me. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Like, yeah, like, we've given this story before. So, gosh, can you remember what kind of a drink it was? Was it a soup or a drink or something?
Oh, you're talking about
And
that one. Yeah, no,
and it was,
I'm trying to remember what it was. It was something, I had made something. And I remember before this is early on in the relationship. This is probably the 3 months before, maybe before she met the kids, but it was early into it. And I had made something, and the way I said is like, hey, I want you to try something. You're probably not going to like it, but I want you to try it anyways. It was something along those lines, right?
mhm,
And I,
yeah. And I
yeah.
was lifting this up to my mouth, Wayne. I was lifting it up to my mouth, and just before I put whatever it was into my mouth, you said, "Oh, but you're probably not going to like it." And I took it out of my mouth, and I said, "What did she do to you?" And you said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "What did she do to you?" That is not how people speak when you're about ready to taste something that someone's given you. Oh, you're probably not going to like it. Well, then why am I taking? Why am I trying it? If I'm going to hate it,
Now,
and then you know what? We learned.
yeah, and I just
My
want to
gosh, we
say
learned.
on that is that, and her response wasn't shaming. Debbie's response wasn't shaming towards me or anything like that. And it was actually kind of an epiphany because when she said it, it was like I mean, it went down that way, and it actually made me pause and think about it for a moment. I'm like, huh. Oh, you mean you're not supposed to prepare yourself to get ridiculed and shamed and attacked on everything you do? I mean, and I'd had so much time. I mean, I had the 2 decades of the relationship plus my family of origin who had prepared me for this. And yeah, I mean, so to me, it was just normal behavior. That was funny. I forgot about that one. I do want to grab, I'm kind of
Mm.
losing the bubble here a little bit on the comments, but I do want to grab this
Go
one
ahead.
from All's Well. And it says, Debbie, how does this make you feel? And what could one do to make their new partner feel better? Now, I mean, that was a comment from a while ago, but I mean, I think I still, I think it still is relevant to what we're talking about right now. So, I mean, how did all this crap make you feel? And then what could I have done anything different to make it easier for you for this transition?
Well, we didn't move in together, and that's something that I want everyone to have that down crystal clear. That this situation could have destroyed our relationship. It could have.
Yeah, and
But
someone
we
had
kept
asked.
our space. We kept our space. Mm.
Somebody asked if we almost ever broke up. We'll get to that in a minute. What I want to just say on that is, fortunately, I mean, with both of us being older, with both of us already having, older or having children, it wasn't like either one of us were looking at it going, okay, we got to get married. We have to have, we got to have kids and the clock is running out. I mean, we kind of approached this. Well, I would back up. I think at one point we were considering moving in together, but I think as everything started going to crap, I think we quickly realized, hey, you know what? We can just not do that because there's too much of a chance for this just to turn into a complete crap show. Right? I mean,
Right. There's so much going on, and let me just say that there's already so many ripe opportunities for triangulation and whatnot, and I did not want Duane to lose out on however he can strengthen the relationship he has with his kids. There's already enough issues, so quite frankly, I feel like it's worked out well that when I come over, it's something that we've planned, and then I leave, and then he has one-on-one time with his kids. I think that's really important.
Yeah, and that's kind of the way we approached it. I mean, and I guess, I mean, technically, the way I looked at it is the priority was trying to help the kids, right? I mean, I think early on, even before I really had a better understanding of what I was dealing with the ex, I knew fundamentally that that my kids, the best chance they had of having a decent life is if I was still in their life and was gave them an opportunity to see a different way of living and doing things. So that was always kind of like my baseline priority was, you know, what can I do to not just to completely torpedo everything with the kids. And to be honest, I was incredibly worried that the ex would be able to turn the kids, destroy everything, and basically be, okay, you know, I want full custody. And in the back of my mind, full custody always meant, or always had the potential, and this is what my attorney told me way back when, to be able to move out of state, which then I would hardly ever see the kids. Now, technically for Debbie and I, if it was just the two of us, without all the extra, you know, continual drama, we probably would have had a better. I mean, our focus would have been different over the last 6 years. Well, we've been together for 6.5 years, right?
Right.
The other thing. Okay, hold on. Shoot, I scrolled. Let me try to find this. Oh darn! I'm gonna scroll down. Sorry, I missed one of the questions. Let's see. Mechanica also had asked. Says DSE, does Debbie have actually says a food relationship with her kids or a good relationship with her kid? Well, yeah, of course she has a good relationship with her kids. And do I have yeah, I mean, I mean, it's not like we're out hanging out all the time, but I don't think I have a bad relationship. I think I have a neutral relationship with your kids, right? Wouldn't you say that?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right. And you know, since we're not all in the same household, it's completely different. And the age, you know, the ages, and some of mine are moved out.
Yeah, because your oldest is how old is it? 25, 28?
I have one in my, you know, late 20s, mid 20s, young 20s. So all my
Yeah,
20 range.
my oldest is 21. My next is 19, and then the youngest is 15. So, you know, but I started later, right? I mean, I didn't start having kids until like 6, 7 years into the marriage with the ex. Okay, I just got this isn't a question, but this is just funny. John Boston said, "Debbie, you met Pumpkin?"
Oh, yes.
You might have missed that. We were talking about that earlier, and I could have scrolled back in this is probably old chat. So that was John. Thank you for the laugh. That's pretty funny, man. Oh, can you all coexist in one room? This is Mechanica again. Now, if you're saying, can Debbie, myself, the ex, and the kids all exist? Yeah, I mean, you've been at the graduations with her, at the graduation ceremonies. I won't do graduation dinners or anything with the ex. It's like, look, I just don't want to. Well, it's more complicated than that, because typically my mom's involved, and anybody who's paid attention knows that my mom is on team X. So that, that creates a whole another wonderful discussion into this. I'm going to scroll back. Can you see any of the comments, Debbie, or can you not see them?
Yes. John Boston also had one where he wanted an example of triangulation, but you know, that could, we have 20 minutes. You tell me, what do we have time for, or what do we need to wait on?
No, I think we could, I think we could cover that one. I mean, do you have one you want to talk about, or I could bring one up?
Well, gosh, you could talk about the beach trip and some other things. There's certainly things that.
Do you want to? Let's see. Do you want to talk about the medieval time ones, or should we leave that? Or is that one still? Should we stay away from that one?
Oh wow, yeah. I guess if we can give an example of, you know, how not to react, because it's not good.
Well, okay. So let me. What I'll say this.
I reacted in private. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the thing with triangulation is, it's subtle. Like, for instance, whenever your daughter was, I remember you guys did like a girls' day thing, and part of that included going and doing the makeup stuff. So you had my
my
kids and your daughter, and you guys went. I don't even know if I think. Oh crap! I almost said my kid's name. I think my son and I were. I think we met you guys, but it was. But anyways, what I'm saying is that. So they went out. They did the makeup thing. The girls had fun. My girls had fun. I mean, everybody had a great time. Everything was great. They were excited. I think you got them a little bit of makeup and stuff like that. I mean, and it was all cool. And everything was great. They went back to mom's. They came back, and then they hated makeup. You know, oh, we don't wear makeup. You know, I don't like makeup. Makeup's horrible. I don't ever want to wear makeup. You know, and it was just like every time we did something that was special, it got erased. Or got diminished, true. Right? So that's why, and this is the reason a lot of times when I talk to you guys, I say, when you have a moment, enjoy the moment, expect that whenever the kids go back to the other place, that when they come back, that excitement is going to be gone. And it's that type of thing. It's that type of thing where it's like, oh, well, it's so sad that, Debbie needs makeup. You know, mommy doesn't. Mommy's just naturally beautiful. She doesn't have to do that. I mean, it's that type of crap. That it's subtle.
Yeah,
and
that part was fun too. Yeah, great.
Yeah. Hopefully this time, I'm laughing and I'm thinking Debbie's not. And guys,
it was awful.
It really was. I mean, there was a lot of times on this that it was just so, and it just didn't stop. We got to the point where we would not, if we made plans with the kids, we would not tell the kids what we were doing until we were like on the vehicle, halfway there before. It's like we wouldn't say, all we would say is like a block of time. We have something going on. Well, what are we going to do? We're not going to tell you. Well, where are we going? We're not going to tell you. You'll find out later. Well, are we going to be gone? We're not going to tell you. I mean, and it was like, again, that's a good example of a double bind, and that there was no good answers, because we knew if we said, hey guys, we're going to go, we're going to go to spend the week in LA, and we're going to go to Warner Brothers Studios, and we're going to do this and we're going to do that somehow before we even got there, it would be destroyed. It would be, oh, well, we don't like that. I mean, Warner Brothers is a horrible company, and, they're oppressive to children, or some stupid thing. It was like, it was amazing the things that would come up that would undermine and sabotage anything we had going on. And God forbid, if the ex could do it before we would do it, she would do it. And that was, it was not a good, that was a tough experience.
Right. That one trip to the medieval times, that was pretty bad. So, Duane had thought that it was a good idea to feel it out with one of his kiddos that happens to be the most likely one to throw him under the bus, for things, and decided that the best thing to do was to make sure that the kids might want to attend this type of activity. And when he came back and told me that, I was like I was almost in tears. I said, Duane, you know what's going to happen? Like, I felt it in my gut. I said, you know what's going to happen? They're going over to the other house, and they're, now it's not going to, now it's over. And you're like, what are you talking about? I just wanted to find out if they'd want to go. It'll be fine. They'll come back in a couple of weeks, and we'll have our
it wasn't even that. It was shorter. And see, here's the thing. It's
Very
like
short.
What had happened is this was back when we had the 225 for whatever, when it was Monday, Tuesday with mom, Wednesday, Thursday with me, and then the long weekend. And I had the kids over the weekend. They literally went to their mom's on Monday, and by Wednesday they had already gone. So I had asked over the weekend, I'm like, hey, are you guys in? And partly it's because I was broke. You were going to spend the money on it. And I didn't feel comfortable with you dumping a bunch of money to go do this event if the kids were going to be like, I don't want to do it, because there's nothing worse than dropping a bunch of money and having a bunch of little ungrateful kids who, don't like something. And so I mentioned it to one of the kids, and what happened is they went home, they went to their mom's. Mom had a coupon and had already been planning it. Oh my God. And went, and and you were really angry, which rightfully so. I didn't think there's no way in hell the ex is going to spend the money on this. Because at the time, the precedent had been is she would not spend a dime on the kids for anything. So I was like, there's no way. There's no way she's going to drop a couple $100 to go do this. I was wrong.
That was really a bad day.
Yep. So
and so that was the main catalyst for not telling them anything. I just we made this agreement, like,
yep.
I don't care how many times they ask. I don't care what they beg and plead. We are not telling you where we're going. We are simply going somewhere, and that's what we're doing. We're going to be going somewhere. That's pretty much it.
Right. Yeah. Let's see. I'm looking around trying to find other questions and stuff. And guys, that was tough, right? Like I was talking about before, when we made that transition, approach to where we're going to basically deal with everything as a covert operation. It was tough. I mean, because the kids were. Oh, I was just thinking another one. It was when we went to the Renaissance Fair thing, and so everyone went dressed up, and the ex wanted to know everything that they were getting for their costumes, and then proceeded to just like, oh my God, you're going to wear that? I mean, it was just weird. And then turned around and would wear and put the kids in more inappropriate attire. I mean, it was just, that's another good example of triangulation. So.
Right. Right. So there was a skirt that covered most of the legs. It only exposed the front of the legs up like a little above the knee. And the ex kept saying, oh, that's just, it's just too sexy looking, blah, blah, blah. And then, made a really, really big deal about it. And then not long after, there was an event at the school, and his daughter was with, her mom. And they showed up, and she was wearing short shorts that exposed every square inch all the way up to the buttocks. Okay. And I just like, really? Like, they made this big deal about a skirt that covered most of her legs. So, yeah.
Yeah, and what I will say on that though is, even though that was happening, the kids were still really excited about that trip. It was a good one, long day, but it was good. And nobody. I mean, so what we were worried about happening is like, well, I can't wear that. I mean, or whatever, and it wasn't. Actually, the kids just kind of. It was frustrating that we knew it was going on, but in that particular one, I think the kids basically ignored it, if I remember correctly. Let's see.
Yeah, there were times when the kids did I think the kids started to learn too over time that if they enjoy something that we all do, that if they really want to preserve that and not have it ruined, then they need to be careful what they choose to say to their mom, unless they're cool with having it all ruined. You see what I mean? Some of them started to learn.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. That is how it's kind of played out. Is now, well, see, they're older now. I mean, when we started, oh geez, I almost said the name. I got to be really careful because the youngest was 6. No, how old was the young? Let's see. No, not 6, 7 or 8. How old was the youngest when we started dating? Oh, I guess I could do the math. 9.
Gosh,
9, 8 or 9.
So young. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's, we're talking about a long time now. The other triangulation thing, and then we'll move off of triangulation, is Debbie has to be incredibly careful what she says that might have anything to do with the ex. If I say something that could be, or let's say I say something that, well, not that I do this a lot, but if I said something that it was derogatory about the ex, if Debbie says anything that might even skirt maybe on a criticism, the kids they freak out. So that's the other thing to be really careful about is if you have a new relationship. I mean, really the conversation about the kid's other parent, and it's, I was going to say, you should try to not bring anything up. The hard part is there's a lot of things that happen that it's just inevitable to do, you know, I mean, it's like, how do you not talk about certain things? So it's just something else to be careful about.
hmm So I know we only have 9 minutes. Let me just say, to summarize some of this, what I've had to learn to do is to be neutral and or as positive as possible if any conversation involves their mother. I'm very, very careful. Like I am thinking carefully, like, you know, not that I have to think carefully to say nice things. That's not it at all. It's just, I have to make sure not that what I say cannot be misconstrued in any possible way. That's one thing. Another thing is to give lots of space so that Duane has space. So to do things with them that it's not always me cuddling up to Duane when his daughter wants to cuddle up. Do you see what I mean? Like I need
Oh
to let
yeah.
them have their time. And I'm very good about doing that because I don't want to cause any more issues with that, right?
Yeah. We've
And
even done,
basically,
just to
I am.
clarify that, what we've done on that, we
Mhm.
haven't done it in a pandemic but like if we went to the movies, it's kind of like Debbie and I would talk and she'd be like, look, I'll sit on the other side. You know, you can sit with the girls by you. I mean, so we made a conscious effort to try to make sure that it didn't look like there was a wedge between that Debbie was causing a wedge between the kids. Does that, I mean, that's basically, I think, the short version to say that, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then trips don't happen as much anymore, but we've already talked about that. We're careful about that. So to navigate this minefield, it really, as a point of view from me coming from the outside in, um, it's not to be taken lightly. Okay, it is not to be taken lightly. You have to be patient. You have to be kind, considerate. You have to navigate the minefield carefully. Try not to offend anyone. I mean, you're in a lot of ways you're walking on eggshells for a long time.
And one thing I would say that's a benefit or was, I mean, I think this new schedule is, I mean, I wish I was week on, week off way back when, but it was having that time to where, Debbie and I could have our, alone time, I guess, or just, where it's just, I mean, even, and back in the day, we had no money. I mean, it was like, it wasn't like we were going on these extravagant vacations and stuff. I mean, it would just be to where we could just hang out and watch a movie, do Netflix or something and have that time separate. Right. So yeah, anyways, I'm not sure where I was going with that. Let me see if there's is there any other thing you've seen in the comments that you want to pick at in the last few minutes? We still got a few minutes. So
Right. There were a lot of good ones. I was like, oh man, so many. Oswell asked so many good ones. I just want to give a shout out. I mean, he really did, but there's just so much. Um, let's see.
well, here's one.
I'm scrolling through.
So it says this one is so this one creeps me. My ex started trying to dress like my husband. So did Duane's ex ever try copying, mirroring you? I don't think so. Well, no, I mean that's not true.
I
No,
think that if there was more,
no, she
mm,
did because remember after the not medieval times thing, but after the Renaissance fair thing, she started doing
uh-huh.
a lot of the cyberpunk stuff. I mean, I don't know whether that really correlates to that because well, I'm not going to say it because it's an event that's out here. They have this
You
Mad
know what
Max
though?
thing.
Maybe you have yeah, yeah.
So,
I
but I think that
think you have a
the
point.
reality is that it's kind of hard for her to compete. I mean, you're highly educated. I mean, you're on a different, I don't know, plane or whatever. I mean, so and
Oh, yeah. Thanks for saying that word compete. No, thank you for saying that. Thank you. Because that's something that we really should touch on real quick. So, do not try to compete. I am not trying to compete. I was just, like we would just try to do something that's bringing a new memory, like making memories or something. I am not trying to one up or do better it's not like if they go somewhere, I'm like, oh, I have to make sure it's 2 or 3 steps better. That's not how I do it, but that's how I feel like it's happening on the other side. Like, oh, well, so it's like this. This is the way I've kind of noticed it to me. Either if they can't do something, whatever better is, then they have to diminish what we did so that it's not as good. So it's devalue the either the experience, the things that we've done, or do something else that, either take something away that we were going to do or whatever it is. So the competition part isn't on me, but remember how one of the kids came over and said, this isn't about a competition. And I was like, are you kidding me? So
Oh, yeah.
they were projecting what they were doing onto us. We weren't even doing competition. They said that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's taken.
No, yeah, you're right. And this has been a tough one. I mean, and see, I think here's the thing: if your partner isn't emotionally mature, this would destroy a relationship. Right. I mean, this is, and that's by design. I mean, that's what this whole thing is to try to do. I mean, the whole goal on everything that happened was to get us to break up, I think. And I think if you didn't have the emotional maturity, I'll put it that way, that you have, and this was even still tough, right? But I mean, if this would have devolved into the way people kind of typically would deal with it, our relationship would have just exploded. I mean, it was incredibly stressful. I mean, guys, don't take us wrong on this. This has not been a whole lot of fun over the last 6.5 years. I mean, there have been good times, but it hasn't been easy.
Correct. Yeah.
Anything you want to add on that part?
You have to be really right. I just want to make that clear that in no way at all have we ever said, oh, this is great, this is easy. We're very very careful to say truth, which is, hey, this is a really tough, and if someone's going to come into this situation, if they're not prepared for a marathon of difficulties, then quite frankly, I don't think that person will stick around. That's just what I'm thinking.
Yeah. I mean, I think the takeaway on that is you got to take it slow. I would say you also need to be honest with the person you're dating, which maybe, I mean, if you're on this channel, then you probably, you understand a little bit more with what you're dealing with. You probably share this particular podcast, this particular episode, so that they can kind of see what they're signing up for. And I think most people probably are not going to want to deal with the drama. And we're down to the last 40 seconds. Anything you want to add before I wrap it up?
What I'm seeing is that there are several people that would like to know more. So we'll just have to do that a little at a time. But thanks for having me on, and I'm glad I was able to address some of these things.
And on that, all right, guys, thank you so much for hanging out. Man, we are down to the last few seconds. What I do want to say is thank you to the channel members who helped make this happen. Their names are scrolling across the screen right now. You guys help keep the lights on, pay for all keep the service and the phone lines open. I really appreciate it, and I will catch you tomorrow.